know someone inside and out. That was me and Laura. We had what looked like a perfect life, a comfortable home in a quiet suburb, a couple of decent cars, and our weekends spent either relaxing or catching up with friends. I'm an engineer. Most days, I'd leave early and come back late, trying to build a solid future for us. I liked my job, it gave me purpose, and I thought it was my way of showing love and providing for our life together. Laura worked in marketing. She'd always been the social one, full of energy and ideas. She'd talk about her colleagues and the projects she was handling. People seemed to respect her. She'd come home with stories from work, laughing about office drama or complaining about a tough client. I never thought to question it. After all, this was Laura, my wife, the woman I thought I knew better than anyone. But then little things started to change. It's funny how you can miss the small stuff until it's all you can see. She'd be on her phone constantly, smiling at her screen and typing away. When I'd ask, she'd brush it off. Just work stuff, she'd say. And then there were the late nights. At first, it was just 1 or 2 nights a week. She'd tell me she had late meetings or was grabbing dinner with clients. I didn't think much of it, but she grew distant. I'd try to talk to her about her day, and she'd give me short answers like she wasn't really there. Even when she was home, it felt like her mind was somewhere else. Our conversations turned into routine exchanges. How was work? Fine. Anything new? Not really. It felt like she was slipping away from me, but I didn't want to admit it. I didn't want to be the jealous husband, doubting every word she said. So, I pushed down that feeling in my gut, telling myself I was overthinking it. One random evening, I got off work a little earlier than usual. Nothing dramatic, no gut instinct, no big suspicion, just me coming home earlier than I said I would. I opened the door to the house, expecting the usual, a tired wife scrolling on her phone, maybe some music playing in the background. But that day, something was off. Laura was sitting on the couch, phone in hand, but when she heard the door open, she jumped, literally jumped, and scrambled to lock her screen like she was hiding something. I remember asking her casually, "Everything okay?" And she smiled, but it wasn't her usual smile. It seems forced. "Yeah, just work stuff," she said. I didn't press her, but in that moment, the seed of doubt was planted. And once it's there, it doesn't just go away. That night, she went to bed early. I stayed up, restless. I couldn't shake the image of her panicked face when I walked in. Laura and I had been together for 12 years, and she'd never acted like that before. So, while she was asleep, I did something I never thought I'd do. I picked up her phone. Her messages, with someone named Nathan, her coworker, were right there at the top of her chats. As I scrolled through, my stomach sank. These weren't work-related texts. They were personal, explicit, filled with pet names and late-night "I miss you" messages. And the worst part? It wasn't just flirting. They were talking like they were in a full-blown relationship. Nathan called her his everything, and she replied, "I love how safe you make me feel." Safe? From what? Her husband? I sat there in the dark, my heart pounding, scrolling through. They'd been meeting up after work, sneaking around like high school kids, and talking about their future together. Their future. While I was at work, busting my ass to pay most of the bills, she was building a whole separate life with this guy. And just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, I found the transactions. Laura had been transferring money to Nathan, large amounts, too. At first, I thought maybe I was misunderstanding, but the more I looked, the clearer it became. She wasn't just cheating on me emotionally or physically. She was funding this guy's life. Rent payments. High-end gifts. She even helped him pay off debts. I'm talking about our money we'd saved for vacations, emergencies, and maybe even a family someday. She had drained it piece by piece and handed it over to him. I sat there in disbelief, holding her phone in my hands, staring at the screen like it might somehow explain why. I felt a mix of anger, heartbreak, and humiliation. How do you process something like that? I didn't even see it coming. I didn't scream, and I didn't throw things. Believe me, I wanted to. I wanted to confront Laura right then and there, shake her, and ask, How could you? But I knew that wouldn't do anything but make me look weak. If I wanted to handle this the right way, my way, I needed to stay calm. But as much as it hurt, I realized something important. Laura cared deeply about one thing above all else, her image. She always wanted to look in control, like she had her perfect life. That was going to be my weapon. The next morning, I made myself get up early like it was just another normal day. Laura was sitting at the table, scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened. I took a deep breath, walked over, and said, "We need to talk." She looked up at me, confused at first, then a little nervous when she saw the expression on my face. I sat down across from her and told her I had seen the messages. I didn't yell or accuse her outright. Instead, I kept my voice low, almost sad. I told her I felt hurt and betrayed, but that I wanted to fix things. "If we're going to move past this, we have to rebuild trust," I said. And let me tell you, I could see the guilt written all over her face. She started crying, saying it was a mistake. I didn't believe a word of it, but I nodded and played along. "If we're going to fix this, we need to be completely honest with each other," I said. "I can't feel secure unless I know everything is out in the open." Then I hit her with the key part of my plan. I told her, I need to take control of our finances. I don't want to worry about who's spending what or where our money is going. If we're really going to rebuild this marriage, we need transparency. Now here's the thing. Laura was so desperate to save face, so eager to look like the perfect wife trying to make things right, that she didn't even hesitate. She agreed immediately. By the end of the week, she had signed over access to everything. Our joint bank accounts, the property deeds, the investments. She even handed me the passwords to her personal accounts, like this was her grand gesture of trust. When Laura handed over control of our finances, I knew I couldn't waste the opportunity. She thought this was me trying to heal, trying to trust her again. But for me, it wasn't about trust, it was about protection. I had to make sure that, when the time came, I wasn't the one left with nothing. The first thing I did was transfer as much money as I could into accounts she didn't have access to. I researched everything, offshore accounts, cryptocurrency wallets, you name it. I wasn't leaving a trail for her to follow. It took some late nights and a lot of reading, but I made sure the funds were safe and far from her reach. Next, I started moving our assets. I quietly transferred the house into my name. It wasn't hard. She'd already signed off on giving me control, and since she wasn't paying attention, it was just paperwork. The same went for our savings. Joint accounts became mine alone, and I closed every credit card we shared. I even started selling off some of our investments. Stocks, mutual funds, anything that could be liquidated quickly, gone. I put it all somewhere she couldn't touch. To her, this just looked like part of my healing process. I told her I wanted to simplify things, to avoid money being a stress point in our relationship. She ate it up. She was so desperate to make things look normal again that she didn't ask any questions. That's the funny thing about guilt. It makes people blind. But I didn't stop there. I needed to make sure I had all the proof I'd need when the time came to confront her. I backed up every message between her and Nathan. Screenshots, saved to multiple devices, emails, call logs, and even pictures of the hotel receipts I found on her credit card statements. I documented everything. By the time I put the final part of my plan into motion, I wasn't even angry anymore. I knew Laura's job was everything to her. So I hit her where it would hurt the most. I sent everything anonymously to her company's HR department and her boss. Every message, every transaction, all of it. It was simple and straight to the point. I believe you need to be aware of an inappropriate relationship happening in your workplace. Attached are messages and financial records showing Laura and Nathan in violation of your company's policy on personal relationships. I made sure the subject line would grab attention, HR violation, confidential. I attached every shred of proof. And then I hit send. Her workplace had strict policies against relationships between coworkers, especially ones like this. It didn't take long for the fallout to begin. Laura was called into a meeting the next day, blindsided, thinking it was just another work discussion. By the time she walked out of that room, she was jobless. Fired. Nathan didn't get off easy either. His career depended on Laura. She was his mentor, his shield in that company. Without her, he was nothing. He was fired too, but I doubt he even saw it coming. For Laura, losing her job wasn't just about money. It was about identity. She had spent years building her reputation as a top performer and a respected leader in her field. And in one day, it all came crashing down. By the time she got home, she looked like a ghost. When she walked through the door, she was crying. Not the fake kind of tears you might put on when you're trying to manipulate someone. These were real. She was panicking, and for the first time, she didn't look like the confident, put-together woman I married. She looked scared. She looked defeated. She begged me for support. Can you imagine that? The woman who betrayed me for months, siphoned our savings, and lied to my face was now begging me for comfort. She said things like, "We can fix this," and "I need you now more than ever." But all I could think was, where were you when I needed you? I stayed calm. I didn't yell or throw things. I just told her the truth. Laura, this marriage is over. I didn't explain. I didn't argue. I had everything I needed to file for divorce, and I wasn't going to let her sweet-talk me into changing my mind. During the divorce proceedings, everything went exactly as I planned. Because I had full control over our finances, I walked away with almost everything. Our house, the savings that were left, and all the assets we'd built together. She had nothing. And Nathan? Well, the moment Laura was no longer useful to him, he disappeared. He didn't stick around to help her pick up the pieces. She was left completely alone with no job, no partner, and no reputation to fall back on. I'll never forget the look on her face when she realized it was over, really, truly over. She wasn't the confident, calculating woman who thought she could have it all. She was just broken, and maybe she deserved it. As for me, I walked away with my head held high. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad. I was just done. When the dust finally settled, Laura was left standing in the wreckage of the life she had destroyed. Nathan? Oh, he was the first to go. The moment her career fell apart, and she could no longer funnel money his way, he disappeared without a trace. Funny how someone who claimed to love her so much ran at the first sign of trouble. As for Laura, the consequences came hard and fast. She lost her job. That shiny reputation she cared so much about? Gone. And when the divorce was finalized, she walked away with almost nothing. I made sure of that. The house, the savings, the investments. I had taken control of it all before she even knew what was happening. All she had left was the regret, the guilt, and a future she'd have to build from scratch. Alone. I know some of you might be thinking, wasn't that too harsh? Or maybe, why didn't you just forgive her and move on? But here's the thing. When someone betrays you like that, it's not just about the affair. It's about the lies, the disrespect, the complete disregard for everything you thought you built together. Forgiveness is one thing, but trust? That's another story entirely. In the end, I came out stronger. It wasn't easy, don't get me wrong. There were nights when I questioned everything. What I did wrong, why I didn't see it coming. But you know what I realized? Her betrayal doesn't define me. Her actions are a reflection of who she is, not who I am. And walking away wasn't just about getting even. It was about reclaiming my life and my self-respect. So, what do you think? Did I do the right thing? Would you have handled it differently? Let me know your thoughts. And remember, trust isn't just given, it's earned. And once it's broken, it's almost impossible to put back together. Thanks for listening to my story.